My name is Andrew Ericks. I lived once in a city called New York. My mother is Tara Ericks. She's in the phone book. If you know the city and you read this, find her. Don't show her this, but tell her that I love her and that I'm trying to come home. Please. It all started when I decided around the time that I turned 25 that it was time for me to give up taking my backpack into work. It would make me look more mature. It would make me look more mature. I thought if I were lugging around a book bag everywhere like a high school student. Of course, this meant that I had to give up reading on the subway in the mornings and afternoons since I couldn't quite fit my paper bags into a pocket. A briefcase would have been out of line since I was working in a factory, and messenger bags always seemed a little, I don't know, fruity to me. I had an MP3 player which helps pass the time for a while but when it broke, it would shut down at the end of every song. If I didn't skip to the next track manually, I gave that up too. So every morning, I'd sit in the metro for half an hour that dragged on endlessly, with nothing at all to do but watch my fellow passengers. I was slightly shy, so I didn't like to be caught at it. So I watched people intensely enough. I quickly discovered that I wasn't the only person in the world who was uncomfortable in public. People covered it up various ways, but I learned to see through them. I divided them up into categories in my head. They were the fidgeters who couldn't get comfortable constantly moving their hands, shifting their weight, moving their legs closer to the bench than further. They were the most noticeably nervous types. After them were the fake sleepers, who take their seats, practically close their eyes, came awake suddenly and stopped after loud noises. The fake just snoozed from second they sat until the moment the train pulled into their stop. Then there were the MP3 player addictions. The occasional laptop people, the people who traveled in groups and talked too loudly, the cell phone junkies, were either very popular or just commonly unable to shut up for more than 2 minutes at a time. Just as people watching was threatened to get unbearably boring, I found my first incognito. A middle-aged looking man, brown-haired, average size and weight, and dressed casually. Oddly enough, he seemed almost too normal. He had no remarkable features, as if he were designed to fade into the crowd. It was that which led me to notice him. I was intentionally trying to see how people acted on the subway, and he didn't act at all. Didn't even react. Either it was like seeing someone sitting in front of a television watching a documentary about fish. They aren't excited, aren't engaged, but they aren't looking away either. Present but not accounted for. He was on the subway in the afternoons. It was more than a month into the people watching experiment before he caught my eye. Because I didn't catch the same subway every day and didn't occasionally sit in the same car when I did, I saw him. For the first time on Monday, I believe, and for occasionally sit in the same car when I did. I saw him for the first day on Monday, I believe, and for the second time on Thursday. On they'd catch the same train and sat in the same car, in the same seat. Even. OCD much? I thought at the time, since he'd caught my attention so much the first time. I watched him more avidly the next. He was frequently downright unsettling. He didn't do anything at all. He sat there expressionless, head straight, no matter what happened. A woman with a wailing child entered the car and sat right behind him, and still nothing. He didn't so much as turn his head or frown in annoyance. And that kid was fucking loud too. By the time the subway reached my stop, I found myself cluelessly. And when I exited the car, my hands were shaking like I was nervous. Something about that man was wrong. He was, I thought, some kind of freak. Maybe one of those quiet guys who in turn has a dozen women heads in the freezer. The first victim, his mother. I found myself intentionally dawdling after work in the afternoon, stopping to browse in Cossack in the mall near the subway, even when I didn't intend to buy anything. For a couple weeks I avoided catching the subway, and when I found myself at the stop, when it was pulling in, I made sure to choose a train car as far from the one I'd seen him as possible. This one morning I saw another person who set off the same warning bells in my head. A woman, just as plain looking, just as out of the place as a commotion around her. The moment I recognized her, I realized later, was when my obsession began. My people watching, which had begun as bit as a hobby to starve off boredom, became something of a religion to me. I couldn't enter a subway or ride a bus without finding myself examining everyone, filling out mental checklists in my head. Plain clothes of solid colors, no brands, checking, no expressions, no casual glances out the windows or toward other passengers. Check. No bag, purses, or accessories. Check, 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 check. We've got another. I started calling them the strangers.